Welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. Round 16 is in the books. A lot of questions asked, a lot of questions answered, but obviously cracking game of weekend of football backs are now. Obviously, we will jump in shortly to 5 things we learned. We'll then jump into a preview. But obviously, first of all, there's a lot going on with the weather in Sydney at the moment. There's flooding. I know you're in an area it does flood. So obviously, shout out to those areas. I'll let you give your bit of a shout out and just kind of how you going with everything.
Yeah, shout out to the Hawkesbury area. Obviously, the Rivers have come up. Obviously, my local football team, the Windsor Wolves, have always goes under when it's a heavy fall, but it's bad. It's worse than earlier this year. I couldn't get out of my street. Had to go the other way, which was a bit weird. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing good out there, and hopefully they found some dry land.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, everyone stay safe. Give those emergency people a call if you do need help. And obviously, we all hope here at the Gone for 10 show that does start to ease out and those floodwaters do go down. And fingers crossed, we don't have to face this again for a very long time. But obviously, Baxter, we are here to talk about round 16. We're going to talk about the 5 things we learned from round 16. We're going to kick it off with a team that got the 2 points, obviously, over the weekend. They did knock off the Melbourne Storm. That's always a big result. However, number one, Manly are left asking questions now. They were in control, comfortable, playing Melbourne off the park, and they almost lost the game. I don't know about you, but I think if I'm the Manly coach sitting there right now, I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm asking, why can't we play a full 80 minutes? Why can't we hold a lead? It happened against the Cowboys, a couple of weeks ago. So obviously, what were your thoughts on this? And what do you think's going on with that club? Is it just they're not an 80-minute club, or is it fatigue?
Yeah, a lot of questions to be asked from Des Hasler to his coaching staff as well. Obviously, not getting the message to hold out that game. Obviously, they come in at -4 points on the goal difference and then walk away with only 2. Bit nervous. I reckon if they get some more experienced players, or if their players now become more experienced, I think they could be an 80-minute team. But you got to back Manly at Brookie, and it's good to see Melbourne go down again.
Well, 100%. You did nail this 1 to 12. You were probably looking a little bit shaky with about 10 minutes to go. But obviously, I think, like you said, that experience, that's what Manly was lacking in that final 10, 15 minutes. And if you saw the reaction from Trbojevic when he got taken off and they let in that try, he was livid. He did not want to come off. He didn't care what the score was. So maybe it'll be better for it, that bit of rest, but it still leaves you asking questions. How do you fall apart and let in 4 tries in the space of 10 minutes, 3 weeks apart? So
yeah,
we'll jump on to obviously a better note. If you're a Para fan, it's not a better note, but Souths are only as good as Latrell. Now, we both sat here. We both thought Parramatta were going to take home the victory on the weekend, but Latrell really seemed to elevate this squad. Now, I don't know if it's him having that connection with Cody Walker, him just bringing that belief and experience back to the team. But Souths look like a team that it might be out there, but a top 4 team once Latrell's in that back line. I guess, what are your thoughts, obviously, on Latrell's return, how you thought he played in that game, and obviously Souths moving forward?
Yeah, Latrell looked really, really good. Just himself, as we talked about, he lost some weight. He looked slim. He looked good. He looked like he's basically been playing all this season. Look, it wasn't the greatest conditions to play in, so I won't say, South was better than Para, but it could have gone either way. Latrell was good. He brought Cody Walker back into the game, in the spotlight. And yeah, maybe they can be pushing for top 4, but I think it's too far gone for them. They've got 5 games to go. They're still around that bottom half of the 8 hunt. So hopefully they get there. And yeah.
Yeah, obviously your family definitely braved the weather. They were all out at that game. Obviously, your mum wouldn't have been the happiest with that result, but it is what it is. Obviously, on Latrell, given you are a Queensland fan, I will ask you this question. He has ruled himself out of game 3. There's a lot of drama getting thrown up whether he should be allowed to play this weekend, because you're not allowed to rule yourself out of a representative round. But given he's back from injury, given he's only played 1 game, I kind of understand it. But as a Queenslander, are you relieved that he won't be facing you come next Wednesday?
Relieved? A little bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really relieved, I'm like a 3. Because you still got Matt Burton there, who has that really good kicking game we saw in game 2, and obviously we see at the Bulldogs. So, yeah. But
Would you not be more worried if, say, a Crichton came out of the squad and you chucked in a Latrell on the opposite edge? You have Latrell and Burton.
I would be, but I'm not really phased by Crichton. So, like, to see him only coming back from Origin and him, Latrell ruling himself out, I thought it was the best option for him. Obviously, give something back to South. Obviously, you've been missing for the last 12 weeks. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. If you rule yourself out, you're not supposed to be playing Origin, NRL week to week. So, I think you've nailed it. You know, he's just come back, and it's the best thing for him.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, as much as I, let's say, dislike South Sydney, still burns a little bit that Latrell did go across the board, across the Sydney interchange, but obviously he's a good player and it seems like he's maturing. So, I mean, all the best for him and hopefully he can get his hamstrings right and those injuries are behind him. But we'll move on to something that probably makes me sound a little bit bitter. So I'm going to let you go first. I'm not going to bring it up. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's the 6 again rule needs to be tweaking / do the referees need to be held accountable? Need to be held accountable, sorry. Obviously, I'll talk from the 6 again rule. I think it's quite clear why we're bringing this up. The Raiders should have had a penalty in that final minute, should have forced the game to overtime against the Dragons. Again, I don't think the Dragons did anything wrong because they know what the 6 again rule is, and if you can exploit it in those final minutes, I'm going to exploit it and slow down the ruck as much as possible. Baxter, firstly, obviously, we'll go on the Raiders game. What were your thoughts on the 6 again rule, and do you see any potential changes that you want to make?
I think Raiders have been robbed not only of 2 but 4. Obviously, their game against the Warriors where Matt Lodge took a dive and he admitted that he took the dive, and then the bunker came in and overruled the ref's call. Now, if you give Raiders those 4 points, they're in the top 8 and they're not sitting where they are and having the season that they are. Was it a professional foul? I'd give it a pen. I don't know if a professional foul falls into it. Everybody's talking about the flop and whatnot, but yeah, he definitely wasn't square out marker. That is a pen. I don't know why the bunker didn't jump in there and say, hey, mate, no, we're going to have a look at this. Don't blow full time. Could have sent it into Golden Point. Would have been a great game. But the 6 again, I don't like it when defending teams are giving away inside the 10-meter rule. Not rule, but inside the 10. Because you're on tackle 1 or 2. You're not having the greatest line set up on your for defense. So you just give away a little bit of ruck infringement and the referee just waves his hand and you just have to go from defending 5 tackles to 7 now. I like the rule that obviously inside your own 40 as the attacking team, you get to penalty, you get to kick down touch with another set of 6 to go. But yeah, they do definitely need to have a look at this one. It's a bit of a head scratcher. Unlucky Raiders, and I feel sorry for them.
All right, obviously, I'm not going to go too into depth. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to let you talk. I don't want to seem like a sour supporter as much as I think most of the NRL would probably say I'm right in obviously saying it. But obviously, do the refs need to be held accountable? Obviously, we saw Friday night Roosters taking on Penrith. I don't want to say we were the better team. I think we were all right on the pitch. We probably deserved to win the game. I'll go as far as saying that on the base of play. But we saw a few questionable calls now. Baxter, I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to go too much into it. But what we've seen is Robinson came out. He absolutely blasted the referee. Yet there's been no $10,000 fine. Is that the NRL trying to hide what the referee's done now? There's been no fine sent towards Robinson. What are your thoughts, obviously, first on that? And then if you think the referees need to do a post-game where they have to face the media for big things, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, let's just touch on Robbo there. I think the way I looked at his press conference was that he wasn't questioning the referee integrity, which is where the 10K fine happens. I think he just put him on blast and said, you just played a piss poor game. as fans, we expect the players to be at the higher standard when it comes to playing that game. On the flip side, we also expect the referees and the officials to be at their best game. Now, you could put this as a one-off night by the referee, whoever that was in the middle of the ground, but I think he got robbed. And I'm not normally one to say this because I like to see Roosters get up in arms, and especially you. But it did seem like the ref unknowingly was a little bit biased and sort of went, Panthers are down here. They shouldn't be like this. Let's give them another 6 again. Oh, okay, that's a dangerous throw tackle with Sam Verrills. That's a pen. There's a try. No, I'm happy that Trent put the referees on blast. Yes, I do believe that they should face a little bit of media, whether that's a few questions, 5 minutes, or whatever they want to do. But there should be some sort of how did you see this? Why did you see this? Because they just go back to the little hidey hole. They do their little review. Oh, slap on the wrist. You're not refereeing. You're going to be on the touch judge this weekend. And I think the NRL referees need a hard look at themselves.
Yeah, 100% agree. We won't go too much into that. Obviously, without the referees, we don't have a game. So obviously, we do need them to tweak a little bit, but obviously they are under a lot of pressure. So fingers crossed, the boss gets in, they sort him out. But we spoke about Robinson. We've spoken about Des. Let's move obviously on to another coach. It's Holbrook. His days are numbered, Baxter. You came up with a stat that I believe it was 0-8 on the road this season for the Titans. And they're not doing too much. They're not doing much better at home. One of those wins was against the Tigers. So obviously just a quick one. Do you think it's time for him to part ways, or is it a young squad and he needs time, as I think it was Campbell or Webster or one of those ex-players has come out and said that he just needs time. So what are your thoughts there?
Look, I called it before the game. I was with my dad, and I said if he loses tonight, his days are gone. Like he'll be the next coach off the block, and then there'll be 4 teams looking for a head coach for next season. Look, he's had time. How much more time do you need? At the start of the season, he had Jamal Fogarty. Wanted to get rid of him because he was on a higher wage. Gets rid of him, the Raiders. Now they need a sort of a dominant 7. So the guy signed Kieran Foran. It sounds like they don't know what winning looks like. Obviously, yeah, you do have some of these up and coming kids like Jaden Campbell who are just putting the world on fire. But to go from 8th position last year to now bottom of the ladder with 5 games to go, I do believe it's his time as the head coach for the Titans are numbered. Sorry. Do I think he coaches again? Probably. He's a good coach. He did get him up to a good sort, but I think he's just gone off the rails and he's just pushed too hard. And yeah, I'm sorry, Holbrook, but yeah.
No, I completely agree. And obviously we are pushing a bit of time. So we're going to touch on number 5. There's not much really to talk about here. It's just a welcome back to New Zealand for the Warriors now. I don't know if you watched the game.
Can we give you a clap?
We'll give him a clap. Welcome back to New Zealand.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched the pre-game to this, Baxter, but honestly, as someone who doesn't support this club, you almost got tingles watching them walk out onto that field, the crowd rising, the crowd cheering. I think for me, it's just everything they've done to keep the NRL running. As much as it sounds silly, it's only one team. Without them, we didn't have the NRL. So thank you to them. Welcome back home. Baxter, is there anything quickly you want to add on from that?
No, it was a great reception. Fans loved it. Hopefully they can turn out a little bit more. And that's thank you to the Warriors.
Exactly. So obviously, massive shout out to you guys. If you are a New Zealand fan, please get in touch. If you're at the game, get in touch. We'd love to have you on and love to have a chat about what the experience was to be at that first game back in over 2.5 years. So we'll jump into this week. It's a bit of a around the grounds. We'll touch a bit of the topics that are coming up, but the first one kind of ties into the first game of the week that will kick off tomorrow. It's the Sharks versus the Storm, and obviously running across the bottom of the screen right now is Nicho Hynes is ruled out of round 17 with COVID. It didn't affect the New South Wales squad as far as I believe. He got a negative. He was sent back to Sharks. And at training today, he came back positive. So obviously, Baxter, firstly, your thoughts on Hines. How big of a loss is this to the Sharks? But obviously taking a Storm that are kind of low on troops, I guess you could say. How do you see this game going 1-12 or 13 plus?
Look, Melbourne usually don't go 2 games playing poorly. And with the Hectic Cheese being on the Matty John show saying that's the worst spray he's ever got, they would have been whipped at training, bent into shape, and they better be coming out all guns blazing. So I'm going to go, look, let's go Storm 1-12. It is a big loss for Hines, but unlucky.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have seen those stats about how Hughes, they win more games when Munster's out and Hughes is by himself and all that kind of stuff. But it's a tough one. Obviously, it's not the best weather in Sydney at the moment. It is at Shark Park. It is a fortress for them playing out there. So I'm going to go the opposite to you. I'm going to go Sharks 1-12 in a close one. But I think this is one of the ones where you toss a coin before the game and call heads or tails. It could go either way. So we're different there. So we'll keep track this week of obviously whose tips do the best. But we'll jump into the next game. It is Newcastle Knights taking on South Sydney. Latrell will play. Massive in now. Campbell injured. Cookie, obviously Origin. Who else am I missing? There's a few of them in there. Is it Murray? Is he in Origin still?
Murray is in Origin. Liam Knight obviously going down with that ACL injury in the New South Wales Cup. Suffered the game obviously last week. So I don't think you're missing anybody out. But Knights are good at home. They're normally the fans roll in and support that team. But it's hard to look past Latrell and last week. So I'm going to go South 13 plus just on the back of their experienced players.
Yeah, 100%. Like we said, Storm don't usually go 2 games without a loss. Knights don't usually win 2 games in a row. So I'm going to go Souths. I'm going to go 13 plus. I'm looking at the remaining fixtures, and I know what? We're going to chuck it out here now. Obviously, I got the 20 plus last week. I'm going to say in Newcastle, I'm going to go, I'm going to back it up. I'm going to go Souths 20 plus. I'm going to give him a big boost. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Newcastle upset for the Roosters' sake, but I'm going to go Souths. Walker, Ilias probably had his best game. Latrell, they've got those stars that can turn it on. So I'm going to go Souths 20 plus. Let's see if I can go 2 weeks in a row. It was an out tip last week. Let's see if I can go 2 in a row. But we'll jump into another game. It's the Tigers versus the Eels. For me, I see this going one way. I see it going to the Eels. I want to say 1-12. Obviously, the Tigers did beat them with that field goal earlier this year. I'm going to go Eels 1-12. I think the Tigers bring them down to that shit level. We don't know what the weather's going to be like, so it could be scrappy. Eels didn't play well in scrappy weather last week, so I'm going to go Eels 1-12. And unfortunately for a Tigers fan, I just don't think they have enough to compete in the NRL this year. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, obviously it wasn't the best game for the Eels last week, as you've touched on. But given that all aside, I still think they're a quality team on paper. But when they cross that line, they sort of hit and miss. Depends what week you have. Obviously, they played against Storm, they win. They play Tigers, they lose. So, look, I'm going to gamble. I'm going Tigers 1-12. And that's it.
Tigers 1-12. So that's your upset of the week.
That's my upset. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Okay, so say the Tigers are to win 1-12. Who do you see standing up here? Is it a Lukey Brooks plays out of his skin, or what is it?
I think it's Dewey. Dewey's named a starting center this week, so hopefully him coming back from injury, playing off the bench last week, he brings that spark that the Tigers need, and they can get some points on the board and have a good end to the season.
All right, and obviously then, okay, that's one that we're different. That could be the tiebreaker if we do go even, but we'll jump into the final game, and it is the Broncos taking on the Dragons now. In, I guess, good news for the Broncos, Walshy's heading back to Brisbane. It's obviously was announced yesterday that Chance will head across the ditch to New Zealand and play for the Warriors, and Walshy will head back to Brisbane. So
Yep.
Obviously, exciting news if you are a Brisbane fan, but obviously that's not this year. So you're without a few players. There's a lot of injuries in this squad. I'll ask you first. Obviously, Dragons, no Ben Hunt. How do you see this game going?
It's hard to play. It's hard to play without your chief playmaker. Obviously, he steers around the ship, so you sort of give a tick to the Broncos. Obviously, having Adam Reynolds not as well, not having the best week last week. Obviously, was crying like a sook to the referee when he didn't get his own way.
You know what? I'll jump in just before you give that tip back. So just reminder that Hassie's out, Martin's out, Jensen's out, Rabati's out, and Piakura is out for Brisbane. So there is a lot missing there.
Wow. Okay.
I thought I'd just chuck that in. We spoke about Ben Hunt. I thought I'd give you the injury update first.
Let's go Dragons 1-12. But yeah, I'm sticking with it. 1-12 Dragons. Hopefully they do it, but it's a hard one.
Mine's a bit of a biased. Obviously, the Roosters do currently sit at that top 8. We do get the 2 points, which I guess you could say before the Dragons play, we're within 2 points of that top 8. So I'm going to go Brisbane here. I know they've got injuries, but like you mentioned, just Ben Hunt being out, it's just if you look to who guides the Dragons around the park, who gets in those victories, I think it falls a lot on Ben Hunt. So I'm going to go Brisbane 1-12. The game's not in Sydney. That helps them. I feel like it's just going to be a bit of a roar going around, obviously, Suncorp, because Origin is there this week. So I think the fans are going to get out. They're going to support Brisbane, and those fans are going to get them across the line. So I'm going to go Brisbane 1-12. Baxter, we will be back, so we're not going to touch on it now, but like we always do, it's Game 3, the decider. Give us your quick prediction, and then we'll break it down in another podcast. Obviously, is New South Wales claiming it? Is Queensland claiming the series? We don't even have to give a 1-12. Just who do you think is going to take the series?
Queensland on the back of history. I think there's been 4 deciders there, and we've won them all. So let's keep that tradition live and go the Maroons.
It's a brave man to bet against New South Wales, especially after Game 2. However, obviously, like you said, it is in Suncorp, but I think a bit of that hoodoo about Suncorp was broken last year with that big victory. I'm going to back the Blues. Come on, Blues, bring it home. Give us something to cheer about after this terrible weather that we have had in New South Wales. But Baxter, I'll give you the closing remarks. Is there anything you want to add, anything you want to touch on that we've missed, obviously, on this episode? And obviously, we will be back for the State of Origin preview.
No, I think we're all good. Cowboys that own Queensland, and yeah.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Obviously, we are the Gone for 10 show. It's been brilliant to be back. Obviously, round 17. It's going to be an absolute cracker. There's a few games there that could go either way with Origin players, but obviously, if you are listening, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and Baxter, if they don't hit the like button, if they don't hit the subscribe button, where are they going?
They're going for 10.
Going for 10. And obviously, I just thought of one thing. We'll sign off on this. If you do follow us on Instagram, head across to Instagram. We do have a bit of a poll going on at the moment. If you play for New South Wales or Queensland, should you be forced, I guess you could say, to play for Australia? Obviously, if you're not selected, I think we're both in agreement here. If you're not selected, go play for whoever you want. But where me and Baxter are kind of torn is, I believe you should be able to play for whichever country you want. It's state, it's country, pick what you want. Baxter thinks you should. Australia should have the first call if you want to play Origin. But obviously, Baxter, we'll leave our argument till we find out what the poll finishes at. And we might touch on that. We might touch on that in the Game 3 preview. But obviously, Baxter, thank you for joining me. And we've been the Gone for 10 show, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.